Hello, I'm Olivia Black, and for assignment number 3, I chose to do research on and watch the TED Talk titled A Juror's Reflection on the Death Penalty. The death penalty is a very interesting topic to me, and I feel it's a topic that is not brought up very often in our everyday society. I also thought I would feel very inspired after hearing a woman have a say in something as big as sentencing someone to the death penalty, and I did. I will begin by introducing the speaker, who is Lindy Lou Eisenhood, and then I will summarize her TED Talk, followed by my 3 questions and my opinions on the topic of the death penalty. Lindy Lou Eisenhood grew up in a conservative Christian white family and has always lived in Mississippi, which she calls one of the most conservative states in the United States. She was raised by her grandmother, who was a widow, and she says her grandma is who she acquired her strength, integrity, and independence from. She was a federal police officer in the 1970s, then went on to be the first female letter carrier with the U.S. Postal Service in Jackson for 7 years, followed by 18 years in the MS Army National Guard, and ended her working career as an office manager after 13 years with an architectural firm. She says that she has worked at least half her life. Nothing about this woman to me makes her seem necessarily soft in any way, and I believe that she is right when she goes on about how she is a strong and independent woman. There is one instance in her life that has really been tough for her, and it all came down to one choice made by 12 people, including her. She was a part of a jury that sentenced Bobby Wilcher to the death penalty. Lindy starts this TED Talk off by telling the date, June 23rd, 1994. That's her introduction. She immediately begins saying what they told her and the other jurors after making the decision at the trial. In quotes, collect your belongings, you are free to go. When escorted outside, go directly to your car. Do not talk to reporters. End quotes. Lindy experienced upset feelings and anxiety, and she said she couldn't even catch her breath, but all she wanted to do was leave that courtroom. She feared that even the love and comfort from her family wouldn't be enough to be able to make her feel better because no one she knew or had in her family had ever experienced anything like this before, and she just did not want to be a part of feeling the way she said she did and having to think about what she had just been a part of. She describes the death penalty in Mississippi as part of their unspoken culture, with the basic logic being that if you murder someone, you will receive the death penalty. Before being on the jury, she was asked that if she was given the correct and factual evidence that someone had committed a murder, would she be able to justify it enough to vote towards the death penalty? She answered with yes, and was told that she would be juror number 2 in the upcoming trial. When she was in the courtroom as a juror, Lindy and the others were shown pictures of the victim and the knife used to kill the victim. The jurors had to sit every single day and look at Bobby in the courtroom and his hands he used to kill the victim and hold the knife with. When he was put in his cell in between court days, she would visit him during the week of the trial. She began to see him as more of an average person and just a man, and not so much of a murderer. She described his looks when he was in his cell as a white man with a dark-looking face and dark eyes who hadn't seen the sunlight in days or weeks. Lindy began to realize, after seeing the evidence and hearing what the judge had to say about the trial, that our judicial system was broken. The judge liked to call the evidence the tools that they needed to use to make their decision. Although she went along with the other 11 jurors to vote to sentence Bobby to the death penalty. After they made their decision, she had felt anger, anxiety, guilt, and depression, but she knew her life had to go on. So she made the decision to go to counseling to work out her issues and was eventually diagnosed with PTSD. Her counselor told her that she would feel better if she could just talk about it out loud with people. But she said that no one felt the same way as her, with wanting to speak about him being anything other than a murderer, and because of that, she became a silent survivor. Just 12 years later, in 2006, Lindy learned that Bobby Wilcher had dropped all his appeals and his execution date was quickly approaching. All of her bad and hard feelings had began coming back. After feeling this way, she decided to call his attorney and ask to see Bobby again before he was executed. Lindy made the drive to his penitentiary the day of his execution. She had fully expected him to be what she says, manic, but he was very calm and they talked all about life. She asked him to forgive her, and he looked at her and told her that he was the one that put himself in this spot, and she shouldn't feel any sort of way about it. He then said, "But if it makes you feel better, I do forgive you." That made her feel so much better about the whole thing. On her way home, she stopped at a restaurant for a drink because she was stressed out. She said not even the biggest margarita would be big enough to calm her down. While she was there, she got a call from Bobby's attorney saying that just 2 minutes before his execution they granted him a stay. This meant his execution would be put off until a later date. Lindy used the next 3 months that he would be alive to visit him and get closer with him. She says that they even became friends. After all of this, she decided to meet with some of the jurors from the trial and see if they were also feeling the same way that she was. She met with almost every single one of them, and only one thought that Bobby got what he deserved and left it at that. She said that even one said that they were so shocked that they forgot the whole trial. Most of the others felt guilty and anxious for voting for his death penalty even though he knew he was in the wrong. One even told her that he thought if the death penalty was going to be kept in Mississippi, that jurors should be given the option to speak with counselors directly after, paid for by the state. The jurors from this 1994 murder trial even considered getting a group together to speak with future jurors to prepare them for what they were about to be put through. Mostly so they don't walk into the courtroom happy and walk out of the courtroom thinking that they are murder, just like the one they're sentencing death to. In my opinion, Lindy Lou and the other jurors in this trial, faced with making this decision, were very strong-minded individuals. Any juror that has to go through something like sentencing someone to death is also a very strong individual to me. At the end of her TED Talk, she spoke about how much of an influence and inspiration her granddaughters were and have been since the trial. One of her granddaughters even wrote about it for a school paper that she had to do and interviewed her grandmother on her thoughts and feelings and the things that she went through during the trial. The other one stood up to her father and told him how she was against the death penalty even though her father was a conservative male in Mississippi, where the death penalty is a very big deal. Her granddaughters were only 16 and 14 at the time. Lindy said that this has made her learn 3 life lessons. 1. If she had not served, she would still be of the same mindset that she was before the trial of death penalty. 2. It gave her confidence in the younger generations now and to come to tackle difficult social issues that we will face. 3. The death penalty has new opponents which are generations now and to come, including her granddaughters. My 3 questions for this TED Talk are: 1. Why is the death penalty such a big deal to the people of Mississippi? 2. Since it is such a big deal, does that pressure jurors to pick the death penalty even if they don't think that it is the right choice? And number 3, how can the generations to come be an opponent to the death penalty and get the right kinds of implications in place to stop it or help jurors, victims' families, as well as the victims of the death penalty's families? This TED Talk interested me a lot because I've always had an interest on crime things, like I've said earlier, and I've also recently started watching a Netflix show about people who were sentenced to the death penalty. For this reason, I believe I do have some sort of background in this, and that is why I've chose the topic. I hope that if the death penalty does continue to be a part of our justice system, especially the one in Mississippi where it is such a big deal, the jurors can have the correct counseling during and after the trial, and also the families of them can also have counseling to learn how to deal with their problems. Thank you.